30 years ago, I made the hardest choice of my life. I walked away from the woman I loved because society said we didn't belong together. I was a billionaire. She was everything they said I couldn't have. But love finds a way back. If you believe that true love conquers all, hit that subscribe button and ring the notification bell. This story will change how you see love forever. Trust me, you won't want to miss what happens next. My name is William, and I need to tell you something that's been eating at my soul for 3 decades. You see, people think being born into billions makes life easy. They think money solves everything. Let me tell you something. It doesn't. Sometimes it becomes the very prison that destroys everything you care about. I was 28 years old in 1995, fresh out of Harvard Business School, and already running 3 divisions of my family's empire. The Preston name carried weight in every boardroom from New York to London. My grandfather built this fortune from nothing, my father doubled it, and everyone expected me to triple it. That was my life. Numbers, deals, and expectations that felt heavier than gold chains around my neck. My days were identical. Wake up at 5, gym, office by 7, meetings until midnight. Rinse and repeat. I lived in a penthouse that cost more than most people make in their lifetime, but I might as well have been living in a beautiful cage. Every friend I had wanted something from me. Every woman I dated saw dollar signs before they saw me. I was surrounded by people but completely alone. Then came that October evening that changed everything. The annual Children's Hospital Charity Gala. Another obligation on my endless calendar. I remember standing there in my $1,000 tuxedo, writing another check with too many zeros, when I heard this laugh. Not the fake practiced laughs I was used to hearing at these events. This was real, pure joy in human form. I turned around, and there she was, Lisa Washington, volunteering at the registration table, helping elderly guests find their seats. She wasn't wearing designer clothes or dripping in jewelry like everyone else there. She had on a simple black dress, but when she smiled at that confused old man trying to read his table number, she lit up the entire room. Something pulled me toward her like gravity. I walked over, pretending I needed help finding my own table, which was ridiculous since my name was literally on the program as a major sponsor. But she looked at my ticket with those warm brown eyes and said, "Table 1, Mr. Preston, right up front where you belong." Then she paused and added with a genuine smile, "Thank you for making tonight possible for these kids." No one had thanked me like that in years. Not for the money, but for caring about something bigger than myself. We talked for maybe 3 minutes that night, but I couldn't stop thinking about her. I found out she was a pediatric nurse at the same hospital we were raising money for. She worked double shifts, took extra courses on weekends, and still found time to volunteer. While I was complaining about board meetings, she was literally saving children's lives. I did something I'd never done before. I went back to that hospital the next week. Not for a photo op or a business meeting, but just to see her again. I brought coffee for the nursing staff, claiming it was a gesture of appreciation. Really, I just wanted 5 minutes with Lisa. Those 5 minutes turned into lunch the following week. She was hesitant at first. She knew who I was, knew about my family's reputation. But something about the way she looked at me made me feel like William the person, not William the heir. We talked about everything except money. Her dreams of opening a free clinic someday. My secret wish to do something meaningful with my life. How we both felt trapped by other people's expectations. That lunch became dinner the next week. Then weekend walks in Central Park where nobody knew us. For 6 months, I lived 2 completely different lives. During the day, I was the dutiful son making billion-dollar decisions. But in the evenings and weekends, I was just a man falling desperately in love with an incredible woman. Lisa made me laugh for the first time in years. She challenged my ideas, called me out when I was being entitled, and somehow made me want to be better than I'd ever imagined. We'd spend hours talking in her tiny apartment, eating takeout food that tasted better than any 5-star meal I'd ever had, because I was tasting it with her. I knew I was in love the night she fell asleep in my arms while we were watching an old movie. I looked at her peaceful face and realized that all my money, all my success, all my family's empire meant nothing if I couldn't share it with her. For the first time in my privileged life, I understood what people meant when they said love conquers all. I was about to learn how wrong they could be. I thought love was enough. I was 29 years old and naive enough to believe that what Lisa and I had could survive anything. But I underestimated the power of family legacy and the lengths people will go to protect their version of the American dream. It was a Tuesday morning in March when my world came crashing down. I walked into my father's office for our weekly meeting, and there they were, photographs scattered across his mahogany desk like accusations. Pictures of Lisa and me holding hands in Central Park, kissing outside her apartment, laughing over dinner at that little Italian place we thought was our secret. My father, Charles Preston, didn't even look up when he spoke. "Sit down, William." His voice was ice cold, the same tone he used to destroy competitors in boardroom negotiations. "We need to discuss your situation." I felt my heart drop into my stomach. "Dad, I can explain." "There's nothing to explain." He finally looked at me, and I saw disappointment that cut deeper than any knife. "Private investigators are very thorough these days. 6 months, William. 6 months you've been lying to this family." My mother was there too, sitting in the corner with tears in her eyes. Not tears of sadness, tears of what she called embarrassment. "How could you do this to us?" she whispered. "To everything your grandfather built?" They didn't even use Lisa's name. She was just that woman or your mistake. They spoke about her like she was a business problem that needed to be solved, not the woman who had brought light back into my life. My father stood up and walked to the window, looking out at the city skyline like a king surveying his kingdom. "You have a choice to make, son. The family, the business, your inheritance, everything that makes you who you are, or her." "It's not that simple," I said. But even as the words left my mouth, I knew it was exactly that simple to them. "It is that simple." He turned back to me with eyes that held no warmth. "You will end this relationship immediately, or you will be removed from all family businesses, cut off from your trust fund, and disowned from this family. You have 48 hours to decide." I stormed out of that office, my mind racing. I drove straight to Lisa's apartment, my hands shaking on the steering wheel. When I told her what happened, she didn't cry. She didn't scream. She just held my face in her hands and said the words that still haunt me today. "I knew this day would come." We talked all night, exploring every possible solution. I could fight my family, but that meant losing everything. Not just the money, but the ability to support the charities I cared about, the foundation work, the hospital donations. Without the Preston name and fortune, I would be nobody. And Lisa, beautiful Lisa, she saw the impossible position I was in. "I love you enough to let you go," she said as the sun came up. "This isn't fair to either of us, but especially not to you. You didn't choose this life, but you've built something good with it." Those 48 hours felt like 48 years. I didn't sleep, didn't eat. I walked the streets of Manhattan like a ghost, torn between two worlds that couldn't coexist. On one side was everything I'd ever known: family, legacy, responsibility, the weight of billions of dollars and thousands of employees. On the other side was love, pure and simple and real. In the end, fear won. Fear of losing my identity, my purpose, my family's approval. I called Lisa and asked her to meet me one last time. When I saw her walking toward me in that same park where we'd spent so many perfect afternoons, I knew I was about to make the biggest mistake of my life. "I'm sorry," I whispered, and she nodded like she'd been expecting those words all along. I chose the golden cage, and it took me 30 years to realize that I'd thrown away the only key to my freedom. 15 years. That's how long it took for me to realize that success without love isn't success at all. It's just expensive emptiness. Those first few years after losing Lisa, I threw myself into work like a man possessed. I expanded the business to 12 countries, doubled our revenue, made Forbes cover 3 times. Everyone called me a genius, a visionary. But every night, I'd come home to my empty penthouse and wonder what the hell I was doing with my life. I tried dating other women, beautiful women, accomplished women, women who looked perfect on paper and on my arm at charity galas. But none of them were Lisa. None of them made me laugh until my stomach hurt. None of them challenged me to be better. They all wanted the William Preston brand, not the broken man underneath. By year 10, I was having panic attacks in board meetings. The money kept growing, but I felt like I was disappearing. I'd built everything my family wanted, but I was dying inside. That's when I started therapy. Secretly, of course. Can't have the business world knowing that the great William Preston was falling apart. Dr. Martinez was the first person I'd been honest with in a decade. You made a choice based on fear, she told me during one of our sessions. But choices can be unmade. It's never too late to choose love. Those words haunted me for months. It's never too late. But was it? Lisa would be in her 40s now. She'd probably moved on, gotten married, had children. She'd built a life without me, just like I'd built a fortune without her. What right did I have to disrupt her peace? But I couldn't let it go. On the 15-year anniversary of our goodbye, I made a decision that would change everything. I hired the best private investigation firm in the country. If Lisa was out there, I was going to find her. The search wasn't easy. Lisa Washington is a common name, and she'd vanished from New York shortly after our breakup. The investigators found dozens of women with her name across the country. Wrong age, wrong profession, wrong everything. Month after month, dead end after dead end. 2 years into the search, we finally caught a break. Elisa Washington had been working as a head nurse at a children's hospital in Portland, Oregon. The age was right, the profession matched, but the investigators needed to be sure. When they sent me the photograph, my hands shook so hard I almost dropped it. It was her, older, with laugh lines around her eyes and silver threads in her hair, but unmistakably her. She was wearing scrubs and had her arm around a young patient, both of them smiling at the camera. She looked happy, content, beautiful. The investigator's report broke my heart and gave me hope at the same time. She'd never married, no children. She'd built an incredible career, become head of pediatric nursing, won awards for her work with underprivileged kids. She'd taken our broken dream of helping children and made it real without me. But she was alone. After all these years, she was still alone. I stared at that photograph for hours, memorizing every detail of the woman I'd never stopped loving. The question wasn't whether I still loved her. I'd never stopped. The question was whether I had the courage to risk everything again, this time for the right reasons. It took me 3 more months to work up the nerve to make the call. 3 months of rehearsing what I'd say, how I'd explain 17 years of silence, how I'd ask for forgiveness I didn't deserve. When I finally dialed her number, my heart was pounding so hard I thought it might burst. The phone rang once, twice, 3 times. Then I heard a voice I'd been dreaming about for nearly 2 decades. "Hello? Lisa, it's William." The silence that followed lasted an eternity. That silence stretched between us like 17 years of unspoken words. Finally, she whispered, "I wondered if you'd ever call." Not angry, not hurt, just knowing. Like she'd been waiting too. We talked for 3 hours that first night. I apologized for everything, for choosing fear over love, for the years of silence, for letting my family's prejudice tear us apart. But Lisa, being Lisa, she understood. We were both trapped, William. You by your family's expectations, me by a world that told us we couldn't work. She agreed to meet me. 1 coffee, she said, just to see if anything was left after all these years. I flew to Portland the next week, more nervous than I'd ever been closing billion-dollar deals. When I saw her walking into that little cafe near the hospital, time stopped. She was 52 now, with silver in her hair and deeper lines around her eyes, but she was still the most beautiful woman I'd ever seen. We sat across from each other, 2 middle-aged people carrying decades of what-ifs. But when she smiled, that same genuine smile that had captured my heart in 1995, I knew the connection was still there, stronger than ever. "I never married," she said quietly, stirring her coffee. "I tried dating, but no one was ever you." "I know," I whispered. "I know because I couldn't either." 17 years, Lisa, and I never stopped loving you. The healing wasn't instant. Trust takes time to rebuild. But we started slowly. Long phone calls, weekend visits, careful steps back toward each other. I learned about her life, how she'd built one of the best pediatric programs on the West Coast, how she'd set up free clinics in underserved communities, how she'd taken the love she couldn't give me and poured it into helping children. 6 months later, I moved to Portland. Not temporarily, permanently. I sold my penthouse, stepped back from day-to-day operations, and chose love. Finally. We remarried on a quiet beach in Oregon, just us and a justice of the peace. No family drama, no society pages, no billion-dollar wedding, just two people who'd found their way back to each other. Then came the miracle none of us expected. At 52 and 55, when doctors said it was impossible, Lisa got pregnant. Not just pregnant, twins, a boy and a girl. I remember holding those ultrasound pictures with tears streaming down my face. "Our miracle babies," Lisa whispered, her hand over mine. Thomas and Grace were born healthy and perfect, two tiny humans who proved that love really can conquer anything. When I held them for the first time, I finally understood what I'd been missing all those years. This was what mattered. This was what life was supposed to feel like. Now, 3 years later, I watch Lisa reading bedtime stories to our children, and I'm grateful for every single day we lost, because losing her taught me her true value. The years apart made our reunions sweeter than I ever imagined possible. Sometimes the greatest love stories aren't about never being apart. They're about finding your way back home. If this story touched your heart, please subscribe and share it with someone who needs to hear that love never gives up. Comment below with your own love story. I read every single one. And remember, it's never too late for a miracle. Hit that like button if you believe in the power of true love, and I'll see you in the next video where I share more incredible true stories that prove love always finds a way.